everybody. So I've been talking for a while about how I've been using hyaluronic acid in my skincare routine, but that I was never really fully confident in it. I knew that the key claim is that it is hydrating. However, I had also heard some scary things, such as if you apply hyaluronic acid in a dry climate or onto dry skin, that it could potentially make your skin more dry by pulling moisture out of your skin. So I've been obviously wondering if there's any truth to that or if it was just like really exaggerated misinformation. So after like talking about it for, oh my god, like a year, I decided to just figure it out. I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole about hyaluronic acid and kind of how it works and what it does for the skin. Going into it, I did have some specific questions that I wanted answered, but generally I just wanted to learn as much as I could about hyaluronic acid, so I'm here to share what I learned. Before I get into it, I need there to be a little disclaimer. Full disclosure, I am not an expert, I am not a chemist, I am not a dermatologist. This video should not be taken as professional advice, especially if you have any skin concerns, sensitivities, allergies. This is just a very surface level basic understanding of hyaluronic acid, but I did my absolute best to verify all claims with some kind of published research study or scientific journal. Specifically, I found excellent information on these three websites. First is ncbi.nlm.nih.gov. Next, microbialcellfactories.biomedcentral.com, and then mdpi.com. Those aren't the only three websites that I sourced this information from, but those are the three that seem like very trustworthy, very scientific, and almost every single thing that I learned about hyaluronic acid I could back up with something that I found on those three websites. So there's that. All right, so getting right into it. First, hyaluronic acid is a polysaccharide, which basically means it's made out of complex sugar molecules. Hyaluronic acid is, oh my god, please don't put your tail in the candle, Luna! Hyaluronic acid is already naturally found in our body. It works to cushion and hydrate our joints, our hair, our skin, our eyes. And hyaluronic acid is a humectant, which means that it attracts to and binds to water molecules, and it hydrates our skin by drawing moisture from its environment into itself. As we age, our body's natural production of hyaluronic acid decreases, and as a result, our skin loses volume and hydration and plumpness. But applying hyaluronic acid topically can help rebuild depleted stores, and the key benefit of hyaluronic acid is hydration and moisture. So I did find some fun facts about hyaluronic acid, just like a little one-off fun facts that just didn't fit anywhere else in the video. Hyaluronic acid is capable of binding over 1,000 times its weight in water. The synthesis of hyaluronic acid in our body naturally increases during tissue injury and wound healing. Hyaluronic acid is most abundant in our skin, accounting for 50% of our body's total hyaluronic acid. And then finally, I found this in a scientific journal. So random, but microbial hyaluronic acid production on an industrial scale was first achieved in the 1980s by Shiseido. Shiseido, the brand. I did not know that. I mean, I knew Shiseido was like really popular, but I didn't know they were like innovative like that. That's actually really cool. I don't use any of their products, but good for them. So although more research is needed to study how we metabolize hyaluronic acid and the efficacy of various molecular weights, a significant number of studies have shown the effectiveness of hyaluronic treatment as anti-inflammatory, skin regeneration, and anti-aging. Hyaluronic acid in the body is naturally and constantly renewed because of its rapid degradation, but its renewal tends to slow with age and external aggression, so therefore it is necessary to act very early, sustaining an optimal hyaluronic acid turnover to prevent signs of aging, which I think is very cool and interesting that, you know, you think of anti-aging products and you think of things like retinol. You don't necessarily think of hyaluronic acid, but what is more anti-aging than keeping your skin hydrated, plump, full, happy, and then obviously using sun protection. But when you think of anti-aging products, you kind of think of the things that you use later in life to try to like reverse the process, when really the best method is to start early and not need those harsher, stronger products later on. So Good to know. So traditionally, hyaluronic acid used to have to be extracted from rooster combs, so sad, but now hyaluronic acid used in beauty and skincare products is primarily made by bacteria in a lab via a process called microbial fermentation. There are 3 types of hyaluronic acid generally used in skincare. There are more than just these 3, but in general, these are the most common. So the first is hydrolyzed hyaluronic acid. That is hyaluronic acid broken down into elements small enough to penetrate the skin. It's not the most moisturizing, so it's best for oily or combo skin. The second is sodium hyaluronate. So this goes deeper into the skin and produces better results, though the effects aren't long lasting. So this is better for normal skin. It's not as heavy duty. And then the third one is sodium acetylated hyaluronate, and this gives the benefits of sodium hyaluronate, but with longer results. So this is best for dry skin and dry climates. I've seen all of these before in various ingredient lists, but in general, I think the one that I most see most often is the second one, sodium hyaluronate, which makes sense because it seems to be kind of just more neutral, better for everybody. But one question I had was, what makes it an acid? Can it be used in conjunction with other acids? And how does it play well in general with other ingredients? Hyaluronic acid is not actually an acid like how we understand AHAs and BHAs that exfoliate the skin. The acid part of its name just comes from its pH level. So 100% hyaluronic acid is a powder with rock solid particles, and that has a pretty low pH. But by the time hyaluronic acid is found in skincare, which is generally going to be like a 1 to 3% concentration, it can vary slightly acidic at 5 to more neutral at 8. Because hyaluronic acid is found naturally in the skin, it is unlikely that it will cause a reaction on sensitive skin or react poorly with other ingredients. But another little disclaimer, it's always a good idea to do a patch test, even though hyaluronic acid is like very unlikely to cause any kind of reaction or react poorly with anything else. You never know, everyone is a little different, and especially if you have had skin issues in the past, do a little patch test before applying it all over your face. Just pick one little area, put a little bit on, let it sit for a few hours. Hyaluronic acid can be used with direct acids like AHAs and BHAs safely, and when using drying ingredients like salicylic acid, it's actually a good idea to use hyaluronic acid with that. It kind of helps to balance out the drying or the sensitizing side effects of other types of acids or stronger ingredients. So my biggest question going into this, the thing that started it all, the question that's been haunting me about this ingredient is, does hyaluronic acid dry out the skin by drawing moisture out of your skin rather than pulling it in? I spent a lot of time trying to find a straightforward yes or no to this question, and it is just not that simple. So I'm gonna get into it. I feel like I got a pretty satisfactory answer here, but it is not gonna be a straightforward yes or no. So if you're in a dry climate, hyaluronic acid can potentially make you feel more dry, which makes sense. Hyaluronic acid being a humectant, what it does is it draws moisture from around itself into itself. So if there is not a lot of moisture in the air, the only other place to pull that moisture from is going to be your own skin. But don't get scared, okay? According to the Mayo Clinic, the ideal humidity is between 30 and 50%, so anything less than 30% is considered dry. For example, I live in Minnesota. All I've heard my whole life is we have dry winters. And when just for fun, I'm gonna look up the humidity today because I can promise you it's not gonna be dry. So today, our humidity is 74%. So technically, compared to our summers, I guess our winters are dry in comparison, but I would advise you to like look up the humidity where you live because you might feel like it's dry and it might not be. There are places, obviously, where it is. If you're living in a desert, it's gonna be technically dry. So if you are in a dry climate, there are some precautions you can take to prevent hyaluronic acid from pulling moisture out of your skin. So first, using a water-based product like a serum rather than a cream, oil, or gel. This will also allow the product to penetrate the skin easier. Second is never apply hyaluronic acid to dry skin. So after cleansing and toning, make sure your skin is slightly damp when you apply, ideally, your water-based serum. So I use this rose water spray, not super necessary. You can literally just use plain water. I just like the rose water. After cleansing, toning everything right before I apply my hyaluronic acid, I'll give my skin a little bit of a spray and then apply the hyaluronic acid on top. And then finally apply a really, really, really good moisturizer on top. Not like a gel-based, like lightweight, meant for oily skin. If you live in a dry climate, get a really good moisturizer. So all of these precautions are basically providing another form of moisture for the hyaluronic acid to use. Thanks to its high water binding properties, a small concentration of 1 to 3% is enough for optimal moisture level and skin protection. Any higher concentration of hyaluronic acid applied without water could cause further dehydration. So let's recap. Using a water-based serum at a 1 to 3% concentration, and we already know that hyaluronic acid can hold 1,000 times its weight in water, it's already full of moisture. It's already kind of absorbed a good amount of moisture just from living in a water-based serum. So then adding in the rose water or plain water spray and a really good moisturizer is definitely going to be the nail in the coffin in a dry climate. And anywhere else in more of like a normal or even humid climate, all of these extra precautions are kind of not super necessary. They're not going to hurt, but they're not that important. So then I just wanted to learn a little bit more about the specific serum that I use. I use the hyaluronic acid 2% plus B5 serum. So we kind of went over hyaluronic acid. I wanted to learn about B5. Why was B5 put into this? What does it do here? It's listed on the ingredients list as panthenol. So panthenol as an ingredient converts to vitamin B5 in the skin. So they're kind of the same thing, essentially. Panthenol is another humectant, just like hyaluronic acid, so that refers to its ability to bind moisture. But panthenol has the added benefit of being an emollient, which means that it has the ability to keep moisture in the skin and prevent it from being lost into the environment. A 2011 controlled clinical trial concluded that skin integrity is maintained by the improved protective effect of 1% vitamin B5 added into a formulation. And the most effective formulations will have around 5% panthenol in their product. I could not find a straightforward answer about the concentration of B5 in the Ordinary's hyaluronic acid serum, but panthenol is listed as the 6th ingredient. So there are 2 types of hyaluronic acid listed on the ingredients list, and those combined equal 2%. Both of those come before panthenol on the ingredients list. I feel like it's pretty safe to assume that there's probably a less than 1% concentration of panthenol in this serum. But even though B5 is listed right at the front of the bottle here, I don't think it was really meant to be the star of the show of this serum. I think it was added in just to be kind of a little bit more of a helping hand in maintaining moisture in the skin through the emollient benefits and kind of just help work with the hyaluronic acid. So specifically regarding the hyaluronic acid part of the serum, according to their website, the molecular size of hyaluronic acid determines its depth of delivery in the skin. The Ordinary's hyaluronic acid combines low, medium, and high molecular weights, as well as a hyaluronic acid cross-polymer for multi-depth hydration in a water-based serum. So as I mentioned, there are 2 types of hyaluronic acid listed on the ingredients list. The first is sodium hyaluronate, which we talked about earlier. So sodium hyaluronate already does come in a range of molecular weights. And then sodium hyaluronate cross-polymer, which is mentioned in the description of the product, but I don't know what I didn't going into this, I didn't know what a cross-polymer was. I was curious about why it is special enough to be featured as like a main selling point of this serum, so I looked it up. And the rest of this is gonna be a little bit more of like a little chemistry rabbit hole that I fell down. And yet again, it's literally the most surface level understanding of how it all works. I am not a chemist, so take all of this with a grain of salt. I did my best to understand this so I could talk about it, and I also did my best to condense this information in a quick and easy to understand way, but that does come at the cost of sort of simplifying it all. So if you're interested in this kind of like I was and still am, I highly encourage you to do your own research because there's a lot of really cool fun facts and scientific things to learn. But I really tried to keep it like on topic and relate it directly to hyaluronic acid. To figure out what a cross polymer is, I decided to start with a polymer because I didn't know what that was either. Kind of embarrassing because I feel like we all had to learn this. I didn't know this. So a polymer is a large molecule composed of repeating units called monomers. I also didn't know what a monomer was. Monomers are molecules that can react with other monomer molecules to form a polymer chain. They're kind of like the building blocks of what a polymer is. So from a chemical point of view, hyaluronic acid is identified as a glycosaminoglycan, and that is a linear polymer chain formed by the repetition of disaccharide units, composed in turn by the molecules' alternation of glucuronic acid and N-acetylglucosamine, joined together by glycosidic and hydrogen bonds. So in case you're curious about the little detailed specifics, there you go. So what is so good about a cross polymer? First of all, there isn't very much information about cross polymers because it seems like the generally used and accepted term, at least scientifically, that I kept seeing over and over again is cross-linked polymer. And I believe those two terms can be used interchangeably. According to e-education.psu.edu, there are 4 basic polymer structures. They are linear, branched, cross-linked, and network. Cross-linking is the general term for the process of forming covalent bonds or short sequences of chemical bonds to join 2 polymer chains together, and it resembles a ladder. Cross-linked hyaluronic acid has a larger water binding capacity and gives long-term moisturizing benefits because the formation of smaller particles by means of cross-linking resulted in better diffusion and penetration through the epidermis compared with linear hyaluronic acid. So although that kind of makes it sound like cross-linked hyaluronic acid or a hyaluronic acid cross polymer is just better, it is still important to have linear hyaluronic acid polymer chains in a topical skincare formula because you do want the wide range of molecular weights entering the skin in order to maximize the benefits. So that's what I got. I feel really good about this information, and I completely squashed my fears that hyaluronic acid could potentially be harmful or drying to the skin. And although more research is needed on hyaluronic acid, more research is always needed all the time. So I feel like there are just so many benefits to this ingredient, and I'm excited for more information and research to come out because I think it's a great product. I had a lot of fun going down these little rabbit holes. I had a lot of fun learning about this, and I definitely want to do this more with other skincare ingredients. I've already started working on niacinamide. I want to learn more about direct acids, peptides, ceramides, all the fun stuff. So definitely subscribe if you're into that or want to see that. Let me know what else you want to see from me. I post about once a week here, so subscribe if you want to see more. All of my social media will be linked down below. If you want to be friends, let's be friends. And as always, I just want to say thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!